Colton, go ahead and fire us off.
All right. Welcome to Mike's Harder After Hours. I'm Colton.
I'm Joe. And of course, Don, the filthy whore, our junior producer.
How y'all doing?
And tonight, we've got J.R. Majewski, former candidate for U.S. House, Ohio's 9th Congressional District. Fucking honor, man. Honor to meet you. Honor to talk to you. I'm glad you came on.
Oh, thanks, guys. Glad I can make it.
So, well, before we go too far, are you planning to run again? Because this could shoot you in the foot.
I don't know what I'm going to do, man. I'm working back in the power industry, and kind of took a little bit of a break from politics. I mean, you never really get away once you get into politics, unfortunately. But I haven't really made my mind up yet on what I'm going to do. Campaigning is tough. Patriotism is a lonely game, and everybody's your friend when you're popular.
Yeah.
But the minute you're not, people really show who they truly are. So, I really honestly have not made up my mind. If Craig Riedel runs, I'll run just to beat that motherfucker. Outside of that, I haven't made up my mind yet, to be honest.
I think honestly in that last run, if you'd have stuck in there, I think
I
you
would have won.
Yeah, I think you would have. I think you would have. You had honor in bowing out. You did. You had honor in stepping back. But I think you would have won.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to why I stepped out that I haven't publicly talked about, but at some point I will. But, at the end of the day, the same people that were, supposed to be part of the Republican Party, right? They're the problem, and they wanted me out really, really bad. So it just got to the point where, man, how many knives can you take in the back? My thing is, and we'll get to it, but I kind of look at it like this: when I ran in 2022, I was overlooked by a lot of people. They didn't think that I would do it because I'm not part of the club. I'm not part of the good old boys network, and all that other stuff.
Yeah.
But realistically, I despise politics. I think politics is a nasty, nasty place. And I didn't know that then. I assumed it. But regardless, I went and I really showed the establishment how to beat Marcy Kaptur. If it wasn't for her lies about my military service, I would have beat her. I was tracking to defeat her. And because I was almost successful, or I was on the verge of being successful, is why they broke the law, stole my records, did all the stuff that they did. They did that because they knew they were going to lose. It's either lose or lie. You know what I mean? And history tends to favor the winners, right? And so she won. And when I decided to run again, I kind of think that when you have a guy that's supposed to be part of your team or you're part of their team, you see him out in the field, he takes a bunch of bullets or arrows, whatever, he falls. If the motherfucker's brave enough to get back up, you stand around him and you support him. You give him a Band-Aid or something, right?
Yeah.
You don't stab him in the fucking back.
Yeah.
And that's what I feel like the guys did that decided to run against me, because they decided that, they saw what I did. They thought they were capable of it. And boy, did they fail. I mean, Derek Marin, who was supposed to be, the Republicans, the establishment guy after Craig Riedel stepped on his own dick. Marin he lost by 2,000 votes, but let's be honest, 12,000 plus Trump voters didn't vote for him. And prior to the general election, the guy that was doing my polling, who did Trump's polling, said that I was on track to garner 94% of the Trump vote. He only needed 89% of Trump voters to win. And he failed to get all those votes. And, people will say, well, there was a libertarian that ran, an independent that ran. Yeah, he did run. And he was the J.R. Majewski voter, though. he ran because he didn't have faith in any of the other candidates winning.
I voted for the Libertarian candidate this last pass around.
A lot of people did.
And you know why?
And
You know why? Because I got a flyer in the mail that had Marin and it had this other guy, and I never heard of this other guy. But I read all the bullet points. He wants to, the Second Amendment is an absolute, and all these other bullet points. It wasn't until I read that I realized that it was sent to me by the Democrat Party, and I'm like, well, thanks a lot, because now I know who I'm voting for.
yeah, yeah, and they really, I mean, at the end of the day, the Democratic Party put those flyers together because they didn't want Derek Marin to win, but honestly, he wasn't on track to win. There were so many people that were just like, you know what, Majewski's not running. I'm not going to vote for the establishment, right?
Right.
I'd rather vote for Captor and at least know that
It's status quo.
She's going to stab me, right?
Yeah.
Not get stabbed when you're being told you won't.
Right.
And I think that's what Washington D.C. fails to understand. And I don't know. I was indifferent. I was torn on the election. I was, but after the results came, it was clear to me that I was right. I was right again. Just like I was when I decided to run. Just like I was when I defended myself and stuck around and didn't just, crawl into my closet, suck my thumb and cry. I stood up, fought, and I should have stuck it through. But, I don't have any regrets, man. I mean, do I really regret it? Yeah, I regret dropping out, but then
I don't think I personally wouldn't see that as a regretful thing. What you did, I think, was honorable. I think if you'd have stuck it 3-1, but what you did was honorable. So, if you decide to run again, I'm definitely going to be a supporter.
Thanks, man.
I'll willing to campaign for you. Nobody's going to listen to me though, because I'm a nobody.
Hey, you got to start somewhere,
Yeah. So if we could get into some lighter stuff,
Sure.
I'd kind of like to know what was it like when you were growing up? Did you have two parents in the house? Did you have any siblings?
Yeah, so I grew up in the north end of Toledo. I'm a Woodward High School graduate and grew up off LaGrange Street. And my parents were married right out of high school. And they were married for, 41, 42 years. My dad passed away during the election, the first time I ran.
Wow, sorry to hear that, man.
No, thank you. It was totally unexpected. And, a lot of it we don't know exactly why, but he developed a lot of heart problems after the COVID shot.
Yep.
He had to have that COVID shot because he had other medical conditions that he was seeking treatment for, that he was under treatment for years. And in order to continue to receive that treatment, he had to go to the hospital, and the hospital wouldn't admit him or let him in until...
That's some fucking bullshit, ain't it?
And it is. So, but yeah, my parents were happily married. My dad was traumatically injured when I was probably 3 or 4 years old, and he became medically handicapped. But you wouldn't know it if you saw him. He just he really got into an injury or had an injury at Jeep, and it led to a number of surgeries on his back. And a lot of them were experimental kind of, new age surgeries in the 80s. And I can't say it did more damage because who knows, but it left him in essentially just constant pain. And I had a stay-at-home dad that was very, very strict and, disciplinarian. But he, at the end of the day, we didn't get along when I was a kid, but after coming back from the service, we found ourselves to be best friends. So it was, like I said, tough childhood. You grew up where I grew up, right?
Right.
LaGrange area is not certainly not the best area now, but it wasn't when I was a kid either. So you learn a lot, but I'm thankful for my upbringing, and my parents in my opinion, did a great job. I certainly everybody can look in the mirror and say, I wish you would have done this, wish you would have done that. But look, I got my ass spanked. I got grounded. I got all that stuff. And I think I'm a better person for it.
Aside from military service, your upbringing sounds a lot like mine. My dad was a very strict disciplinarian. He passed in January of last year, and man, the life lessons, they were rough at the time, but
Yeah.
you know, I carry them now as a badge.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, look, my dad was a kid when he had me, so, and you know, with the things that he had to deal with, I couldn't imagine. You know, my life hasn't been easy. Nothing's been given to me, but you know, I can imagine being him. Right? He didn't have the opportunity to go to college. He didn't
Right.
have any of those things. I did because I fought my way. You know, I paid for my own college, and but college wasn't necessarily a thing to the inner city of Toledo when my dad was a younger guy coming out of high school.
Right.
You were a special person if you went to college. You were wealthy, or you know you were a genius or what have you. And you know, my dad was a trades guy. My dad knew how to. I mean, there's nothing that man couldn't fix.
Right.
And he was kind of like the family's MacGyver. And but he was an automotive, you know, mechanic by trade. He always had the fast, you know, cars, the Impalas, the you know all that stuff in high school. And you know, people that went to Woodward during the time my dad was there, they all remember him from having like the coolest cars, you know.
Huh. So what kind of student were you in high school? Were you kind of the straight A jock, or were you kind of a just passing grade? Where were you there?
Well, I was you know, growing up in elementary and junior high, I always had really good grades. I had A's and B's, and I know that you know I'm a genius. That's proven, and I'm not lying. I've been tested for it. The Toledo public school system accused me of cheating on my schoolwork, and they sent me to a basically an aptitude type test, and they wanted to skip me grades, but my dad said no because he thought I'd get beat up, you know, and picked on because of the school that I went to, and we couldn't afford to send me to Maumee Valley Day, whatever the hell it's called, and my dad didn't want me to go there anyway. But you know, through like I said, elementary, high, and junior high, straight A's. Freshman year, A's and B's. But then I started hanging out with guys that were 4 or 5 years older than me, and at that point, I just did enough to get by. I really didn't have value in high school. You know, I didn't perceive the high school as giving me value. A lot of the classes were just charades. I mean, Woodward High School, when I was going there, was kind of a joke. You had to go through a metal detector to go to class, you know. It was
you and I aren't that far apart in age. You're only you're just slightly a year under me, and you were already going through metal detectors in high school, in junior high.
Yeah, Woodward was the first school in the metro area to have a metal detector.
Wow.
So, yeah,
That's wild.
I mean, going to Woodward was like surviving every day. It wasn't like going to learn. It was, can I get to school without getting jumped and not getting my ass kicked because maybe I got a pair of shoes or a coat or something that somebody fucking wants, right? And then you got to worry about the gangs. You know, if you're wearing the wrong color, and you know, I walked through, you know, to get to Woodward, I was only a couple blocks away, but you know, you still, when you walk through Wilson Park and you walk through that area right there, that's where everybody's kind of convening. And so, you know, it just made for kind of a weird time, you know.
It's wild to me to think that 30 miles makes that much difference. Because where I went 100%. To high school at is probably 40 miles from where you went to high school. And we went to high school at the same time. It's wild to think that distance makes that much difference.
Yeah. Toledo, inner city Toledo has always been, I mean, you know, the way this area is here in the North End, I mean, North Enders are, regardless of your skin color. North Enders are pretty proud people, and with the the movement of the old Polish folks and the German folks and the Hungarians that were living in the city, in this area, as jobs started to change, industry started to move out, other people started to move in, and when I say other people, I mean people that weren't Polish or Hungarian or German, and there was a lot of territorial disputes on that, and they brought in, different forms of low-income housing, and it just created a I don't know, like a really diverse mix of people that just didn't, I don't think, to a certain extent, didn't know how to get along. And I'm embellishing a little bit because I'm reflecting on it as, I was a child. But,
Right.
Some of the things changed. I mean, we had the Polish, the Grange Street Festival, which was always a blast, but there was always something that happened there. I grew up, the neighborhood I grew up in, that's when, the Nazis came to Toledo. They went to Woodward High School, which is this high school I went to, and then, they burned down the whole area around here. So around there. So
I remember when that happened. I had actually moved from Ohio back to Idaho, and I was watching the news in Idaho when the neighborhoods were all being burnt down. The Aryans, the Aryans were told to leave, and they did, and then suddenly the neighborhoods were being burned down, and that was wild.
Yeah. I don't know. I wasn't here when that happened. I was in the service. But I remember, one of the places that got burnt down was right across the street from my grandfather's house, right? And I remember calling to check on him, see if he was okay and everything, and he was just in like total panic,
Oh yeah.
And I don't know. That was a kind of a weird time for the city of Toledo. I don't know why the Aryan guys decided to come to Woodward, but they did, and I think the city could have done a little bit better job. But
absolutely. Kind of moving forward a little bit. I know I'm trying to be free flow, but I do want to keep going.
Sure.
When did your interest in politics begin?
Well, after high school, I joined the service, and after the service, I started working at Davis Bessie, and I started out in the union there, working in the security group, and then I ended up getting an opportunity to move into management, and I did, and I impressed the site vice president, who became, kind of a mentor to me to some degree, and he gave me an opportunity to display my skills, and I just kind of climbed up the ladder, and I had no interest in politics whatsoever. I kind of felt, I don't know, like politics was just didn't have any impact on my life. I was kind of learning my way, and then I started listening to like Rush Limbaugh.
Yeah.
And I my grandfather used to play Rush Limbaugh when I was younger, and he used to force me to listen to it. And I used to hate Rush Limbaugh because I was forced to listen to it. But I would sit in the office and I'd listen to him at night, and it just kind of interested me, and it helped me kind of develop my political beliefs,
Yeah.
And because prior to that, growing up in inner city Toledo, having a dad that was in the union, you're just like a Kennedy Democrat type,
Yep.
And then right before, so when I've always thought Donald Trump was a cool dude. He teased about running in 2012.
Yeah.
And I got kind of excited about that. I was like, man, this would be cool if this guy runs. And then when he decided to run in 2016, I just thought he was screwing around. I just couldn't fathom why a dude like him would decide to run for president. But my dad was like, 100% this guy's going to run. I like this guy. And I was just surprised, man. I was surprised that my dad liked Donald Trump. And then I got to know the political side of Trump, and I was just like, man, this guy's got his shit together. And then with his presidency, he showed me things that I thought to be true, or maybe assumed to be true, but couldn't be proven, or just maybe I didn't put the time in to get to the root of the things. But he really exposed the inadequacies and the ineptitude of the government, and so I decided to run against Captor because she's been in office since 1982.
Yeah. Since you and I were in the second grade or something like that.
That's when I was born.
I was like 3 years old.
Yeah.
You know, and she's like, so I thought, look, I become friends with Donald Trump. Trump's going to run. He's going to win. So Trump runs. He wins. He's going to run again. Can I beat Marcy Captor in a district that's all Democrats? Probably not. But guess what? I grew up in the neighborhood. I got, my last name carries a lot of weight in Toledo. People know me, and I'm friends with Trump. Here's this like perfect storm of maybe conditions that would allow me to scare the shit out of her and get people like us motivated to get into politics. That was my goal. 100%. Didn't think I was going to win, but I was going to put my best foot forward. And then right before the general election or whatnot, they changed the districts, which made it pro-Republican.
Yeah.
And that's when I thought, yeah, I can do this. And I had to beat Teresa Gavarone and Craig Riedel, but I wasn't worried about them at all. I was just worried about Marcy.
Nice. Did you ever run for any other political office before you jumped into this?
No, I was working out of, at the time I was in charge of spent nuclear fuel for one of the largest spent nuclear fuel management company in the world. And I was working out of two different offices in Philadelphia and one in Chicago. And I was managing the commercial agreements and spent nuclear fuel for a bunch of different major utilities. So I was sitting doing great and didn't have a care in the world financially. But running for politics changed that. So
you brought up finance, so I want to ask. It was something that's been on my mind, but I wasn't going to bring it up, but you did. 80% of Americans can't come up with $1,000 for an emergency without borrowing it. Have you ever been in that position?
Absolutely. I grew up in that position. We survived my entire childhood on a $1,200 a month Social Security check. I didn't know that until I was an adult. But that's why I had to cut the grass for a pair of Nikes. That's why I had to do things. I had to go out on my own and do things. My mom and dad weren't going to. My mom couldn't give it to me. If she could, she would. My dad wouldn't have, because that just wasn't principally sound.
You had to earn it.
Yeah. But coming out of the service, I didn't have anything. I filed for bankruptcy coming out of the service, and because of my school loans, when the Obama administration changed how school loans were paid, and stopped letting students consolidate. I went from having one solid, decent, manageable student loan payment to having like 10, and it just put me underwater. And I had to file for bankruptcy. Fortunately, that after that, I got my big promotion at First Energy, and I got a big bonus that year. And I took that money. It was like $53,000. And I went to the bankruptcy judge and I paid off my Chapter 13, and I was proud of that.
Hell yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I could be in that spot now. I mean, I don't know. You know what I mean? I just got back into the workforce. I don't manage my finances. I know how much I make, but my wife does the rest. And, as long as she doesn't tell me I can't buy something, I'm usually pretty good. So, but I would say for a while after, I went from making nearly $300,000 a year as a young man in the nuclear power industry to take $100,000 pay cut to work in politics, and then have the political machine totally lie about me and try to ruin my character. So for the past 2 years, I've been kind of rebuilding myself from a professional standpoint, at least to get whatever credibility that and maybe perceived by me that was lost.
Yeah. Yeah, I followed like when you were running, you were like you said they ruined your reputation by lying about your military career, and thankfully you were able to come through and correct that. It was too little, too late. All the people that didn't care and wanted you buried, it didn't matter to them, you know.
Yeah, that was the risk they took. They knew it was going to take me a while. They knew
Well,
the process, and
for the
that's why they took
for
that
those
risk.
of us out here that actually cared, you know, we didn't take what they said at face value because we all know there's a smear campaign,
Yeah,
you know. So
yeah,
when you came out with clarification, when you were finally able to come out with clarification, that justified, you know, you're indignant. You were pissed, and rightfully so.
yeah.
You know, you couldn't tell them what was going on. You
Right,
had no ability.
right.
So
And also, you know, the way the system works, right? The medal that I should have had, you know, who'd have thought that, you know, that medal, not having that medal, because again, for those of you that don't know, I left the service before the Operation Enduring Freedom was considered an official military campaign, and a ribbon and a medal were created by President Bush. And so I was eligible for that medal. I met the requirements. However, I left the service before it was created. So the capture campaign knew that. They knew the circumstances, and they knew that I could not legally or honest. How do I say this? I couldn't show proof other than photographs that I had been deployed during Operation Enduring Freedom,
right.
and they used that to say that I lied, and it was just a play, a lie by omission. But then I found out after the campaign that they even went farther. They illegally obtained my military records. They forged my signature and got my entire military file. That's how they knew the other things, like, oh, he had a DUI. Well, and realistically, I didn't have a DUI. It's not on my record. It's a DUI in the military because I blew blood alcohol content that was beyond Japanese law. It was not beyond any American law at all. I blew a .0003 something, and if I had been 50 yards farther down the road, I would have been on base, and it was on base. It was .08, right? So it was a. But my point of saying that is they never would have known that had they not illegally obtained my records. Now, one could say, "Yeah, we deserve to know." No, you don't, because I wasn't drunk. It's not on my record. I didn't. It's nowhere. The only people that knew about that DUI at the time were me and my mother, because my father passed away. You know, my wife didn't even know. Why? Because to me, it was a nothing burger. I had 2 beers, and I freely admitted to having a couple beers on base. And the military policeman that was at the gate wanted to be a hero. And
And how old were you when this happened?
20,
Yeah. Yeah,
you know.
yeah, it is a nothing burger. It's
Yeah.
to in
Now, if I
order.
would have been sloppy drunk, I would have blew a .08. Hell yeah, you guys deserve to know. But a .03, which again, there's never been a requirement. There's never been that has never been the standard for blood alcohol content in the U.S. ever. Right? It was Japanese law. I was on Japanese. I was pulling into the base. The base commander. They spent like 2 days deliberating what they were going to do to me. Do we punish him? Do we not? Do we punish him? Do we not? Finally, they said, yeah, we're going to make an example out of him. And they did. So I was a whipping boy for a good 7-8 months in the service because of this mistake. Now I got to relive it again 20 years later. And it's a totally different, magnification, because no one's telling the truth. They're just saying DUI, right?
Yeah, well, I could probably blow a .08 right now. I've been drinking rum and juice since I got home from work, thinking, how the hell am I going to talk to this guy? I'm a fucking nobody.
Oh, man. We're all nobodies, man, in the grand scheme of things.
Oh
I'm just a
shit!
regular dude, man.
I'm getting that, and I'm really enjoying that. In fact, when you told me to get hold of you through your cell phone. I was like, this guy is he's a fucking regular dude. Why would he give me his cell number if he was anything other than,
Yeah.
that?
I'm not some pretentious prick like, a lot of these people. They think they're important, and at the end of the day, if I'm too busy, I just say, hey, man, I'll text you later or call you later or whatever. I mean,
Right.
I gave away my cell phone number on the campaign. I gave it out every time I gave a speech. I told people to write it down.
Yeah, you're fucking crazy, man. Fucking crazy.
It was not the smartest thing I've ever done. But I did it.
So
I haven't changed my number yet. I don't know why.
So where do you get your news? What sources do you get your news from?
Now or just in general?
Just in general.
There's been an evolution in where I get my news.
Let's say currently, where do you get your news?
Twitter, probably. For the
Yeah.
most part.
Yep.
I'm involved in, I wouldn't say involved. That's probably not the right word for people that are going to potentially want to use this against me. I would say that I've always been an independent critical thinker. I've always been the person that says, yeah, man, that's crazy. I'm going to give you an example. When I first got into the Trump stuff, there were a lot of people that I knew that were like QAnon and Q and all this other stuff.
Yeah.
I got listed as this QAnon guy. I've never even been to a fucking QAnon forum. I don't even know what that. I know what it is now. It's like 4chan or something. I never even been to that website. I have no clue. And I remember distinctly arguing when these guys were saying, oh, this is going to be this way and this. I'm like, you guys are fucking nuts. I love you, but you're nuts. But then I had to carry this banner as the crazy QAnon dude because I wore a shirt that this website, my buddy at the time, I didn't know him at the time that well. He sent me a T-shirt from his website, and it had a Q on it with an American flag in the Q. I had no idea what that meant. You know what I mean? So anyway, that has, I would say, magnified my discernment on how I go about gathering news. But like I said, I'm not necessarily involved. That's the wrong word, but I would say I'm privileged to certain groups of politicians and political circles and people that, when news comes out, they make sure that their friends and family are aware so that they don't get caught up in hype, or maybe they could, we could help spread the truth and counter, whatever lies are coming out against them. So I've kind of got a mixed bag of things, but at the end of the day, I don't take anything at face value, whether it's coming from Republicans or Democrats. To me, we've gone from an environment socially where we've had the mainstream media lying to us to now we have an environment where Republicans or conservatives are paid to not really lie to us, but get us excited, get us emotional, because they're paid on our reaction, they're paid on our engagement.
Right.
And I think it's counterintuitive. I think it's dysfunctional, and I think it does a really nasty disservice to people like myself who have stood up and fought for the truth.
Yeah. I consider myself a right-leaning centrist. I can't call myself a libertarian anymore because that party went the way of the dodo bird. But I'm definitely a right-leaning centrist. And what I will do is I will read 3 different news sources and triangulate the truth, because that's the only way to actually figure out what's going on.
Yeah.
So that's how I get mine.
I would say, as far as where I stand politically, I mean, I kind of feel politically homeless right now. I did before. Never really been a Republican. Not because Republicans don't share my values, but they don't practice them. They pretend as if they do.
Yes.
And
yes.
So, I would say I'm conservative in nature in the fact that I want to conserve the sovereignty of the nation. I want to conserve, our founding fathers and the work that they put forth. I want to conserve, the history and the culture of the United States. But I'm very liberty-minded. Again, I agree with you with the libertarian thing. I think there's been a shift, from the middle on both the right and the left. And I'd say the true libertarians now kind of call themselves constitutionalists.
Yes, that's where I'm at. Yes.
Yeah, and so the libertarians now, they're kind of like the anarchists, right?
Anarcho-capitalists, yeah.
Yeah, they have no fucking clue what they are. They just libertarian was a blank slate for them, and they got to come in and pretend like they have something. But generally speaking, I don't know. I've always had like an affinity for, like I said, I'm not trying to bull I am not an arrogant person. I'm a very humble person, but I am a smart person, and I love that people don't think that I am, because it's happened to me my entire life. People have overlooked me, and then I burn the shit out of them, and they realize that they're the idiots. But I just have had a level of intuition that allows me to kind of determine the truth on my own accord. Normally, I'm very socially intelligent. At least that's what all these leadership courses I've been through have told me. And so I can really gauge certain things based on emotion and based on people's actions. So
Right.
I don't have to really make certain things a science project. I just normally, when news comes out, my intuition will say, oh, if I were in that situation, how would I handle it if I had the behavior traits of, this or that person? And I kind of, develop my own hypothesis, and usually that's pretty accurate. So.
All right. Well, how much time we got left, Colton?
I think we have about 20 minutes.
So it looks like we got about 20 minutes left. I'm gonna ask you to come back on at some point. I would.
No problem, man.
This conversation's so good. I know we could go for 2 hours, but we're restricted. So.
No problem. I'll come back anytime.
My first, when it comes to politics, would you and could you take JD's seat?
Would I? I would if I was asked by the president. Sure.
Yeah.
Could I? Yeah, if the governor chose me. Is that going to happen? No. DeWine's not going to pick a guy like me.
No, I didn't figure, but I wanted to ask.
He's going to pick John Husted.
Yeah, but I wanted to ask because I, you don't know until you ask.
Yeah. No, I'll be honest with you. President Trump could call me today and say, hey, man, I need you to come here and be my bodyguard for the next week, and there's a chance you might get shot. And I'd have that conversation with my wife. I'd put a vest on and I'd head to D.C. So, Trump's my guy. He's done a lot for me. And, there's not much that I would not do for the guy. He wouldn't ask me to do anything illegal, so I don't have to say, again, covering my ass for the crazy liberals that are going to hear this, but I would do just about anything that guy asked of me.
Awesome. Coming up January 20, after the inauguration, when it comes to executive orders, what do you think his first handful are going to be?
Well, I think number one, he's going to shut down the border. He's probably going to shut down both legal and illegal immigration until they can wrap their arms around it and really get a sense of how bad it is. I mean, we've not been told the truth by any means from the Biden administration. We know it's terrible, but how bad we don't know.
Right?
So
they've been fudging the numbers for 4 years.
Yeah, I think we'll see that. That's one of the first things. Secondly, I think he's going to repeal a lot of the regulatory constraints that are placed upon the oil and gas industry, allow them to get back out and start their exploratory work and start pulling oil and natural gas back out of the ground.
Right.
Those are the top two. He'll probably put some pressure on the central bank and other folks to try to bring interest rates back down and get us to a position where cash is flowing back freely through the marketplace. And then I think we're going to see tariffs come out right away, and I think he's going to put the pressure on those nations that have been pillaging us over the past couple of years under Biden. So I know there are a lot of executive orders coming out. They're most of them, from what I understand, are already written, and they're just ready to go day one. And I wouldn't be surprised if Trump doesn't sign them ahead of time and just sits at his desk and pretends like he's doing that. So we'll see.
Yeah. Your opinion of Fetterman here lately? How what is your opinion of him? Because he's pissing off his own party.
Yeah, I don't know. He's an anomaly to me. I want to believe that everybody, regardless of where they stand right now politically, especially the people that are coming to politics, recently, I want to believe one of them are going to have an evolution kind of like I did, where you grow up believing certain things because that's what you're told, you find that you've been lied to, and then you realize that, oh, well, here's the truth, right? And here's how I'm going to navigate this crazy world of not only, earning a living and sustaining your family, but navigating through the political spectrum, right? And I think Fetterman is just your average Midwestern dude from Pennsylvania that, there's certain things that he's nitty gritty on. And there's other things where he probably gets taken advantage of by his party, and he probably still gets manipulated and lied to. I mean, I don't know him personally, but from what I've seen in the public, he's not the brightest boot in the closet. He's not stupid, but he's not a snappy intellectual, right? So I think, and these members of the Senate and the House are so dependent on people that work for them, their staffers, to feed them information.
Right.
Based on all of those factors, I think when Fetterman, I think these recent things are examples of where Fetterman has gone out and kind of developed his own opinion on things rather than being told how to act, what to say, and things like that. So
I've really enjoyed what he's had to say over the course of the last few months. The guy he's stepping away, not necessarily stepping away from his party, but he's making himself known as an individual. He's willing to work. He's willing to work with what his party considers the enemy. He's willing to work with them.
Yeah, and like I said, I think I just have this gut feeling that he's more like us than he knows. And,
yeah, absolutely.
I think he's realizing that.
Yeah.
Right. And I think there are more people in the Democratic Party that have that, and I think some of them will never come out of the closet, right? They'll never come out and say it because they didn't learn their political affiliation, their true political beliefs, until they were already in the game. And once you're there, you can't really change it. If you do, you'll lose your position. So,
yeah. What do you think Trump's plan on mass deportation is going to look like? Because I know that. We were just talking about Fetterman, he was saying if they couldn't get 7 Democrats to help pass the Larkin bill, I don't remember the bill number, but if they couldn't get 7, then that was why they lost. So, do you think that he'll be able to actually do the mass deportation that we most of us want?
I think so. I think Trump will be successful. I think we're going to learn a lot about mass deportation and a lot about what we've been told. And I think there's been a lot of things. Like I said, going back earlier to my comments on the news and people that are affiliated with the Republican Party and how they're paid to get us excited and things like that.
Yeah.
Now I'll throw a scenario at you. And look, I'm for the mass deportations, right? But let's just think of it like this. Let's say you had a guy. Let's say your next door neighbor, his name's Jose, okay? He's a Marine veteran who served in Afghanistan and Iraq. And his parents both are Americans, right? They claim they were born here or whatever. Doesn't matter. They're just Americans.
Yeah.
Well, we find out by way of this mass deportation thing that, Jose... his dad's actually an illegal. We've never caught that. And they've been living in the United States. They've raised him. And based on this new endeavor of mass deportation, we find that, well, technically, Jose's not an American either. What do? Right? Do we deport Jose, guy that served the United States military proudly in a couple different tours just because of, 30 years ago when he was a baby, his mom and dad came here and, they maybe manipulated the system and gave him a good life. They've been under the radar. None of them, no felonies. They've been great members of society. and like I said, Jose's gone to be a veteran of our military. What do we do at that point?
Right.
Because the way we've been geared and the way we've been positioned, we would deport all of them, right?
Right,
We would
yes.
deport Jose and his mom and dad.
Right.
Now, I don't think any of us will say that we agree with that when
No,
we talk about it.
absolutely not.
When we say it out loud, none of us agree with it. But they're not giving us the details. They've never given us the details. They're just giving us enough to get us excited and to go on this emotional tirade of everybody's got to go. And at the end of the day, we all want the same thing. We want to maintain our sovereignty, but we want to do this. Has to be predictable. So what I'm saying is, Trump may say 15 million people, but there's going to be a point where he's going to have to tell everybody in America what I just told you guys.
Right.
Because Trump is not going to kick Jose out of the country.
Right. So as an addendum to that point, with the Department of Government Efficiency, all right, with the potential that Elon Musk is going to head this department, is there a chance that on a case-by-case basis, something like that could be looked at, where if you were just flat-ass here illegally, you don't have a family, you don't have an establishment, you're gone, but you are here as, in the case of the Jose that you put up, he would be what we'd call a dreamer. So in the case of that family, that would be reconsidered so that potentially they could gain citizenship and they wouldn't kick the Jose out.
Right. And I don't think Doge would be the group that would do that. I think that would probably come from like Stephen Miller and the Trump's core key advisors. But I know they're going to have to go through this mental exercise of what I just talked
absolutely,
about,
absolutely.
That's just the kind of people they are. What I'm saying is that there's going to be some people are going to be emotionally distraught because they're not going to understand those details. They're not going to want to hear it. They're just going to say Trump said he's going to mass deport, and now he's not. And the number may go from 15 million to 7 million or whatever. It doesn't matter. But my point of it is that everything we've been told leading up to Trump getting in office has been somewhat embellished. You never hear Trump saying these things.
No,
right?
absolutely not.
Trump's never come out and gave the lines of bullshit. It's the other people, right, that have been influencers or what have you. They speak very loosely and freely, and they are part of the problem where they've. I don't want to say they've written checks that Trump can't cash because he can. I just think it's gonna. I think we're gonna get a different dollar value off that check than we originally assumed.
Yeah,
if that makes sense.
That's a good way of putting that.
Everybody will be happy at the end of the day, but people are going to be crying for a little while. I mean, it's just the reality.
Well, anything worth doing hurts. You know, the easy path always ends up being not what you want anyway.
Right.
So, kind of a lighter topic. Where do you stand on daylight savings time? We gonna get rid of that crap?
Fuck yeah, man! I've been saying that for years. The biggest. I mean, look, there are some intrinsic benefits of having daylight savings time. Don't get me wrong.
I've never seen one.
Well, one of the compelling reasons why they meddled back and forth is that there have been some major cities in the United States that have experienced a distinct correlation in young children being hit at bus stops or in intersections while traveling to school because it was darker in the morning, right? Now
that could be solved by infrastructure.
Absolutely, but I mean, to give some reflection on why it's gone back and forth, right? But at its core, I think that I'd like to keep daylight savings time with respect to I want to have a longer day. You know what I mean? I don't want it to be dark at 7 o'clock. I want it to get dark at 9 p.m. That's kind of where I stand. So it's kind of like having daylight savings time, but that's it, just one. No changing, the windows every November.
Yeah, don't know which time zone I want to be stuck in, but I definitely am tired of changing the clock. It
Yeah.
shit drives me nuts.
Yeah. I think it's dumb, honestly. But I understand why they did it historically. But I think this is something that, is not constitutional, in its genesis. So I think we should be open to changing it if it improves the lifestyle of the American people.
Yeah.
And who doesn't, like, honestly, do you want it to be dark out at 7 o'clock at night, or would you rather have it get dark out at 9 p.m.?
The only people that want it dark at 7 o'clock have kids in grade school.
Right?
They want to tell them to go to bed because it's getting dark.
Yeah.
Be home when the streetlights come on.
Yeah.
I wish that was the case still, right? Turn your Xbox off when the streetlights come on.
Oh, shit. A personal question.
Sure.
What is your take on prescription commercials? Because they drive me batshit crazy.
Yes.
Well,
I know for the longest time.
You can't ask me and then tell me your opinion, because then it looks like I'm agreeing with you just to be agreeable.
Well, you.
I don't think. I don't know, man. How many of us have watched a commercial and said, "Oh shit, I'm gonna go buy fucking Zoloft because I saw some lady and some guy on TV that looks nothing like me, that has a family and a house that looks nothing like mine." I mean, I've never been persuaded by a prescription drug.
I know what it did to my grandmother.
Yeah,
I got cable in my grandmother's house, and it was right when they were starting to allow prescription drug commercials to be aired on television. And she doctor shopped until she got everything she wanted. She thought she was diabetic. She thought she had asthma. I mean, she had pills upon pills, and she actually convinced doctors that she was diabetic to get this insulin shot. So not only are they annoying, I think they're dangerous.
Yeah, I mean, I could see, I don't know, this kind of, it pulls at my liberty roots, right? I kind of see it like, if a company wants to be stupid and they want to pay a couple $1 million to run a commercial, and there's some stupid ass that watches that commercial and they're stupid enough to go do certain things that are going to be detrimental to their health, then they probably deserve the stupid ass results that they get. I would rather see us be honest and operate with integrity, and we would have doctors that weren't chasing dollars and trying to pump out these prescriptions because Eli Lilly is cutting them a check. I would rather see us do some reform in that regard, make doctors more responsible, not necessarily from a punitive perspective, but let's not put a carrot in front of their face, right? The carrot that they should be working towards is having healthy patients, and they should be rewarded for how many patients they see, what their bar of health is, if their health has improved under their medical jurisdiction or what have you, not how many Adderall prescriptions they can pump out a quarter, right? I think those are the metrics, and that's where I think the government could apply. I don't think the government should restrain the people from doing anything.
I can jump right on the liberty-minded part, except that I think that they're taking advantage of the elderly. I firmly believe that a company should be able to advertise their product regardless. But I also think that when I watch the morning news on any channel, who's paying for that news? It's Pfizer, Moderna, it's all of these companies, and they get to say, they get to lean on these news agencies, and I think that's also that needs to stop. So there's a double-edged sword here, like Pfizer shouldn't.
But it goes back to just draw it back to its core.
Okay.
And follow me, because I know you're going to agree.
Okay.
Our safety net is our physician. That's why they're medically licensed, right?
Yeah.
They've turned into the medical industry, specifically family doctors and family practice. One of my best buddies is my doctor, and he is my age, and he loves every person that he sees. And when the medical industry changed, he stood firm and wouldn't turn his practice into a chop shop, right? He will not see a patient if he can't give them at least 15 minutes. His nurses and his staff pre-screens everyone that comes into the office to make sure that, what they're coming in for, they have the time allotment for him to give them, for him to sit down and actually go through what they need and have the conversation with them, right? And that's what our medical practitioners have done over the years. I mean, doctors used to come to your home,
Right.
and money has driven our medical industry towards the cliff that it's on right now, and it's way more than prescription medication. The reason why they're seeking these carrots and this extra money from these prescription and pharmaceutical companies is because they're paying out of the ass because we have ridiculous tort laws.
Yeah.
You have the ability for anybody to claim malpractice, and then it goes in front of a judge and jury. Sometimes they have no idea what they're talking about, and in order for the doctors to protect themselves, they have to have insurance that is ridiculously high. So a good portion of their income goes to paying for their insurance. And I would say 95% of doctors in the United States pay more for their malpractice insurance than they do for their homes or their cars or anything else in life.
Oh, I'm sure
And
they do. Yeah.
If we change that, look, I'm not saying like if you go in the operating room and your left knee is being replaced and they replace your right knee and they neuter you, that doesn't mean you don't deserve some compensation, right? But we need to put some constraints around that, right?
Yeah.
Because if I lose my nuts and my left knee and you lose yours, you shouldn't get $10 million and I only get $1 million. That's not fair,
Right.
And that's all the medical industry needs. That's what doctors are screaming about. That's what JD believes. That's what I believe. And I think that's what common sense, constitutionally minded folks believe. Sure, we could stop the commercials, but we're just putting a Band-Aid on something that needs stitches, right? Let's get to the root of the wound. Let's nip that fucker out. And if they want to leave this stuff out here, it's going to die on the vine, because this stuff's not going to matter if your grandmother goes to a doctor who has the time to, because every person, not every, but most people that become doctors do so because they care about people, they're interested in medicine, and they want to make a difference in people's lives. Sure, some of them get into it because it's a high-paying career field, but I guarantee along the way, predominantly those folks find a love for working with people, and they want to spend half hour or 30 minutes or 15 minutes with a patient, not get them in, take their pulse, have check their back, stethoscope their breath, and then, oh yeah, what do you need? Adderall? Okay, let's sign off, boom, you're out the door. The doctors don't want to do that, because they know when they write that prescription that there's a chance that that person could have an effect that they may not have picked up on. They know that, but the environment that they're in is so fast-paced, they don't have the time to catch their breath. And I think our government needs to focus in that respect, and then I think everything else will kind of fall in line. But we're not, people that run for office aren't thinking about that.
Well,
They would take the Eli Lilly Pfizer check any day of the week.
yeah,
That's the fucking
I tend to fall in behind you when it comes to that, because I want the government out of every aspect of my life. So yes, I hate the idea of sicking the government on somebody. I really do. That's just one that really annoys the shit out of me.
I'd probably blow your guys' minds on term limits, as well as betting in the stock market too. I guarantee you guys don't know what my answer will be, and I know it'll surprise you.
Term limits ought to be 12 years or less, and anybody who's in Congress should not be able to trade stock.
I disagree.
Okay, let's hear it.
I disagree. I think we get term limits by virtue of the ballot box. The people decide when you are in or out of office. The problem is not that people are serving too long. The problem is that our votes are diluted. Our votes don't matter. Our votes don't matter because the establishment on both sides of the aisle pick and choose who becomes the candidate, and they invest a lot of money into doing so. If we take their ability to leverage our elections out and make it so it's just about how many voters you can get, then we're in a good spot. Right now, it costs anywhere from $3 to $5 million to run for the lowest levels of, I would say, the most impressionable districts in the United States, right? Where, just an average Joe could run for office. And that's a lot of money. Not many people have that kind of black books where they could call up all their buddies and get them to, give $3,000.
Right.
And, if we set term limits at 6 years, 12 years, it doesn't matter, because the Democratic and Republican machines will make sure that when, let's say, Jim Jordan's going to retire, that they've put a person next to Jim Jordan for however many years that it takes, because they'll pay for it. They don't care. They'll pay for it. And when Jim retires, that person that they want, that they pick to replace him, will go out in the district. They'll give them a ton of money, more money than they'll give anybody else can raise. And then their Manchurian candidate will win again.
So a lot like what happened with Kamala Harris, who suddenly was able to raise over $1 billion.
That's what will happen, and that's what does happen. So instituting term limits will do nothing but expedite the revolving on the door. At the end of the day, you're still going to get the same kind of people. They're going to be accountable to the same types of powers that many Americans don't know about. They're still going to do the same thing, kiss the same rings, and slap the same asses, and we're going to get the same results. We're just going to have a different name and a different face, and we're just going to hate another person for 6 to 12 years until they retire and become a lobbyist.
Wow. Okay. Well, that opened my eyes. I had never considered it that way because I've never had it presented to me that way at all. I never would have thought that.
Because the group that runs term limits loves to make you pissed off. They love to say that this is an easy fix because they get paid to do that. Because they know that no member of Congress is going to vote for. Very few members of Congress would vote for term limits. Most of them are there. I would say the ones that we don't want to be there are there because they want the power. The ones that are there believe that they're there because they could make a difference in their home, and they don't want 12 years because many of them, have flown under the radar or done things that maybe they didn't like that they had to do, and they would like the opportunity to, really represent the people that have elected them. On the other hand, these interest groups, again, they're Republicans, and they make a lot of money by calling very wealthy people and saying, hey, term limits, because wealthy people are like, yeah, maybe I don't like such and such and I want them gone. And so they'll give the money to the term limit groups who then, pay their staff and all the operators of these nonprofits, and they make millions of dollars doing so. And it's all a bunch of fucking bullshit.
Wow.
So we only have a couple minutes left.
Okay.
I would like to hear the thoughts on, trading in the stock market for politicians, though.
Trading on the stock market, same thing, right? It's a it's a right that you have as an American to participate in society and in the free market. There are ways to limit members of Congress from cheating, and I think that if they decide to serve on a committee, they should not be able to engage in investing in any industry that falls under the auspices of their purview. Or the real thing is that they should have to report their all of their stock trades within 12 hours. But I would say to you that most of these folks, they don't do the trading. They have somebody that does it for them. And if they don't do the trading or nobody does it for them, then their wife is doing it. And if their wife's not doing it, then a friend is doing it. And they won't see that money until they retire and we forget about them. Then their friend will give them all that money that, that's just how it works. But you don't want to take away anything from, because at the end of the day, they're Americans just like us. They have a right to participate in the stock market. We should not limit them. I'll say it's kind of like this. Good people do stupid shit for money. Okay?
Yeah.
If you were to stick 100 pounds of gold in the middle of a room and there'd be 14 of our buddies and say, "Don't steal that," somebody's gonna walk off with a gold bar, right?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, okay?
Yeah.
Or we're all gonna agree that we'll all divide it up by 14 and we'll be happy, right? That's just the fact. That's just the fact of the matter. So what the government can do is take away, that route to be complicit or to be doing things that just aren't principally ethical. Right now, they have an ethics board, right, an oversight committee, but the penalty for doing things that aren't legal on the stock exchange are only. I mean, the penalty for a member of Congress is a $200 fine, right? Now think about it. If they were to report their all of their trades within a 12-hour window, right? Put it online. That gives every American the opportunity to trade like Nancy Pelosi.
That's the name I want to talk about.
So let's do that, right? But I still, as much as I hate these words coming out of my mouth, I still believe at its core, everybody deserves the right to participate in the stock exchange. I mean, I think we're over regulating. There's a smarter way to do this shit, and we need to stop taking a chainsaw to stuff and start using a scalpel. Because it's not hard. We could stop focusing on some of this other dumb shit and really focus on these things, and we can get. I mean, we split the atom and we flew to the moon. I mean, come on. We can figure out how to keep a couple jackasses from cheating the stock market.
Oh, we're going to have you back so we can talk about the moon landing.
Oh, God.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if I'm ready to talk about that one.
That's Colton's favorite subject.
I still think you're full of shit.
That one will be fun because I call bullshit.
I'm not sold on it, all right? So
Yeah, whatever.
I've come to the determination that it doesn't really fucking matter to me or my life whether or not we landed on the moon. So
yeah, my mom asked me the other day if I really believe we didn't make it, and I told her, it doesn't matter to me if we did or not. It really doesn't make any difference. But when somebody brings it up, I love to argue about it.
Yeah. I'm so indifferent on it right now that I will just argue.
Yeah, I love to argue.
Oh, man.
So we're coming to the end, right?
Yeah, I think we're about out of time. I actually think we might be over a little.
JR, you got anything, last remarks you'd like to say?
No, I just thanks for having me and thanks for looking towards a guy like me and thinking that I was worthy of your guys' vote. Means a lot. Running for office, like I said, it's not for the faint of heart, and it's a very nasty thing to take on in life, especially for a federal office. But it humbles me knowing that there's people out there, just like me, that are saying, "Man, I wish that motherfucker would have won."
Oh, absolutely. I wish that motherfucker would have won.
Yeah, I agree.
That's what matters.
So, hey, if it's all right with you, man, I'd really like to have you back on. And I've got your number. I won't abuse it. But if there's a question I've got or anything, is it cool if I ask your opinion on something once in a while?
Yeah, absolutely, man. Not a problem at all.
Awesome. So, I'm drunk a lot, so I'm wrong a lot.
I don't drink, so I'll be all right.
Go ahead,
What
Cole.
Marcy Captor says,
Well, if anyone didn't enjoy this episode, they should eat a dick.
JR, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
You're welcome, guys. Thank you. I appreciate it.
You have
Let
a
me know
good
if you
one.
want me back. We'll make it happen.